It's fantastic to be here in Chile. It's been a long time since I've felt sunshine on my face. Not only is it fantastic to feel the sun, it's also fantastic to feel the warmth of the people of Chile, particularly as I arrived on a very special day on Sunday in the middle of your elections. I took the opportunity to go and celebrate with many of the people of Santiago, not because I know much about politics in Chile, but because I like a good party. I'm from Social Enterprise UK. We were founded in 2002, and I'm also currently the chair of the Social Enterprise World Forum. And so I don't only bring my warm best wishes for Social Enterprise Day in Chile from the United Kingdom, but hopefully I bring them authentically from Australia, Canada, the US, China, just about everywhere in the world. So happy Social Enterprise Day. My role in the United Kingdom is to represent around 70,000 social enterprises that operate in the UK. We have a network of some 20,000 organisations at Social Enterprise UK. And our goal is really three areas. We seek to win business for our members, which is very important. Our bigger role, perhaps, than that is to create a supportive policy environment, which means working very closely with government to improve the environment, the policy environment where social enterprises work. And thirdly, to showcase the impact and the opportunity that social enterprise brings, and that's through working extensively with the media and through newspapers and the television. We also certify social enterprises in the UK. So on the left, you can see some badges, and those badges authenticate both supporters of social enterprise, but also social enterprises themselves. And then more recently, we've also launched this initiative for social enterprise towns and cities. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, but we now have a number of cities that we have identified as social enterprise hubs, and therefore they proudly wear the badge of a social enterprise town or a city. According to the government statistics, there are around 70,000 social enterprises operating in the UK, turning over around £55 billion. That's a lot of pesos. Employing between 1 and 2 million staff. It's a lot of people in the UK, which has a population of around 62 million people. What's interesting for us is that 40% of social enterprises operate in areas of significant economic challenge. 60% grew last year, compared to only 28% of private sector small and medium enterprises. They're confident, 57%, assuming that they are going to grow, so they're optimistic about the future. 38% are led by women. Now, in the FTSE 100, the FTSE is the Financial Times Stock Exchange. So the FTSE 100, the top 100 companies in the UK, only 3% of chief executives are women. So again, social enterprise is really good for diversity. And over 75% include the intended recipients and beneficiaries in the governance arrangements of those organisations. I'm going to talk through the role of government because I think one of the successes that has led to the growth of social enterprise in the UK has been strong political support. And if you are going to build an enabling political environment where social enterprises can grow, it is very important that you build that political engagement and support. So let's just look over the last 15 years of UK policy. In 1997, Tony Blair, in his first ever speech as Prime Minister, talked about the importance of social enterprise. In 2000, we launched a fund to celebrate the millennium, and that fund is called Unlimited, and it has £100 million as an endowment, which is invested, and the return on that endowment, that fund, is used to grant fund and seed fund social entrepreneurs. and has so far supported around 4,000 social enterprises to start up. In 2001, our business department of government set up a social enterprise unit, which is very, very important that the business department sees social enterprise as an important part of the business community. In 2002, my organisation was formed. In 2005, as Andres Velasco mentioned, we had a new legal form, the Community Interest Company. This was the first time in over 100 years in the United Kingdom that we had a new legal model for social enterprise. It was anticipated that the creation of this new legal form would create a huge rush of social enterprises to register, and then it would trail off. They thought it would be like gay marriage in the UK. There would be this rapid rush of gay couples wanting to marry, and then it would quieten down. But actually, year on year on year, more and more community interest companies are registered. So the trend is upwards. Last year, we had more than ever register. And in the UK now, we have 8,000 social enterprises operating as community interest companies. The rest operate as a variety of different other legal models. We have companies limited by guarantee. We have charities that are operating as social enterprises. In 2011, we had the first social impact bond launched. And the UK now has 19 social impact bonds, and I'll talk about those a little bit later. In 2012, we had the launch of Big Society Capital, which is the world's first wholesale social investment bank. It has £600 million of investment. I'm on the board of Big Society Capital. I never thought I would be a banker, but I've become a banker. I've always seen myself as an activist, as a social entrepreneur, but now I'm also a social investor. And then in 2013, we had two very important things. We had something called the Social Value Act. And the Social Value Act puts an obligation on anyone spending public money, universities, local governments, central governments, housing cooperatives. Anybody spending public money must consider wider social benefits, jobs, training, reductions in inequality when making the decision about who will deliver these services. So rather than just buy services on the cheapest price, we have moved to a model now which must take into account environmental impact and social impact also. So much of my time is spent in Westminster, the House of Commons, the House of Lords, and increasingly in the European Parliament. Because for me and the organisation I represent, the way that you build a social enterprise movement has to be done not just with social entrepreneurs and civil society organisations, but you have to build support with politicians of all parties and of business as well. Everybody has a role in building a social economy. You can't just do it yourselves. And so for the last years, I have spent much of my time trying to influence politicians and get them to build a supportive environment where social enterprise can grow. In 2010, we launched this document, No More Business as Usual. On the back of the global financial crisis, we understand that business has lost its connection with society. People mistrust business almost as much as they mistrust politicians in the UK. And so we have to find ways that business can rebuild trust. So no more business as usual. Business needs to serve the needs of society and humanity. It is not for people to serve the needs of business. And so this manifesto was widely supported by all of our political parties, the Green Party, the Conservative Party on the right, and the Labour Party on the left. All of them had strong commitments to growing social enterprise. Even the Queen says that social enterprises will have a bigger role as she takes a sip of sherry social enterprise has. It's not just about helping to tackle social problems at a community level. It's about mainstream businesses delivering services with a focus on quality, employee pride. You showed us that social enterprises are not just creating social good, but they are creating jobs and opportunity. And building political leadership in this area is important. And I think we would never have got this far unless we'd have formed an organisation like Social Enterprise UK to go and convince politicians who rarely listen to understand what social enterprise is. So we are seeing lots and lots of areas of British UK society move towards social enterprise. We are seeing housing associations, housing cooperatives moving towards understanding that if they create jobs through social enterprise, the people living in their homes are more likely to pay their rent on time. We see social care services putting users in charge and therefore improving quality and innovation. We're seeing philanthropists say, I don't want to just give my money to a charity, I want to invest it in social enterprise for sustainable outcomes. We are seeing corporate responsibility, more businesses do this stuff. We're seeing charities desperate for more money and to innovate, find that to become a social enterprise is a good thing for them. It means that they have more reliable funding and that they can be more impactful. So many, many more NGOs and charities are launching social enterprises in the UK. And we have health services, leisure and culture, and education services all moving to this space. Education is a hot topic here in Chile. Should schools and education make a profit? I think any venture, any organisation, even a charity, needs to make profit. Profit is good. Private profit, perhaps not so good. But profit, if it's delivered in the right way, can be used for innovation, for product development, for reinvestment. And so we have to celebrate profit. It's what we do with profit that matters. It's not the generation of profit that is a problem. So we have all of this movement towards social enterprise, and the sector is growing very rapidly in the UK. But there's also a movement, and this isn't at the elections in Chile on Sunday. This is the Occupy movement. And I think globally, people are becoming dissatisfied with growing inequality right around the globe. The 99% have not benefited from global growth in the last 20 or 30 years. Only the top 1% have grown their wealth substantially in the last 2-3 decades in most developed countries. The social impact bonds basically pay investors a higher return on the success that the social enterprise has in meeting a social need. And this is the first time that we start funding outcomes, the quality and impacts that social enterprises create, rather than just outputs, the process, the programs. It's all about the quality and the beneficiary experience. As I'm coming to the end of my time, I'm just going to kind of whiz through a couple of slides. I hope you forgive me. We see from the global perspective that the US has the world's largest impact investing funds and community finance infrastructure. We're now seeing France launching a commission on social investment. Germany is developing funds also to support its cooperative movement. We're seeing Canada moving rapidly to social impact bonds and has a task force and is looking at establishing a Social Value Act, and recently launched a new legal model called the Community Contribution Company, and that there is like the Community Interest Company. Japan has set up 30 new social enterprises, and the European Union has a very ambitious program to build social enterprise to help create jobs in places like Spain and Portugal and Greece. And it is one of the 12 priorities for the European Union in the next 12 years. But there's also a crowdfunding revolution. It doesn't have to be about banks and complex investment approaches. I am a football supporter. I like soccer. Very much looking forward to coming to South America for the World Cup. And my football team was bought by a billionaire from Finland, and he moved my football club over 100 miles away. I was not very happy. So we, as fans, got together and we crowdfunded. Collectively, we invested 5,000 people invested small amounts of money to start a new football club in our community called AFC Wimbledon 9 years ago. Today we are very successful. We are owned by the fans, which means that no owner can decide to move the club or sell the club or operate it in any other interests than that of the fans. And we are seeing more and more of this kind of approach. Rather than seeking 2 or 3 investors putting in millions of pounds, we're seeking thousands of investors all putting in small amounts of money. Kiva is a fund based in the US that now has over 1 million investors supporting social ventures across the developing world. And the phone on the right-hand side is a Fair phone. A Fair phone, the conflict-free tin and titanium components, environmentally sustainable, a replaceable battery, dual SIM, and guaranteed worker welfare in the manufacture. This was funded by 5,000 different investors from around the world deciding they wanted to buy a Fair phone rather than an iPhone. This is a quote from the founder of eBay, an understanding that market-based tools, as imperfect as they are, can be used for the benefit of those left behind. We have good government support. This is our Buy Social campaign. Our Buy Social campaign has been featured in the Department for Business in the UK, in London. We are campaigning that companies and consumers buy from social enterprise. And we have big demonstrations to support that mission. Look, in London, it's sometimes sunny. And we have now launched social enterprise cities. So as I mentioned, we have Bristol, Plymouth, we have Liverpool, Glasgow as cities now that are respected and admired because they have public sector support, private sector support, and a thriving social enterprise community. And I would like to share some of this learning and these ideas with you. We have some fantastic social enterprises now delivering all sorts of different services. PM Training has worked with now 20,000 young people to get them into permanent jobs. HCT runs London buses, these big London buses. I've seen a couple of these double-decker buses in Santiago, right? It's good to see them here. It makes me feel at home. But this bus company is run as a social enterprise. It turns over £50 million a year, and all of its profits go into supporting training young people to become mechanics and bus drivers, and women as bus drivers, because the money as a bus driver is good, and also putting in routes into areas that would otherwise be badly served by public transport. Hill Holt Wood, this is Prince Charles, who is also a social entrepreneur, visiting one of our members, Hill Holt Wood. So this can also work in rural communities as well. This is genuinely a global movement, and I'm delighted that you are part of this global movement. For me, it is a huge privilege to be here in Santiago. I'm kind of over time. I would like to thank you. I would like to continue the dialogue and support your endeavours to build a big social enterprise movement here. I would really, really like to thank the translators because it can't be easy translating for me. So thank you very much for your very hard work, and I hope my words weren't too difficult. So thank you for listening, and I'm sorry I don't speak Spanish. Next time I come back, I will learn more Spanish. Thank you and goodbye.